The message that I've just continued to get over and over and over is that there's just goodness, like in the world and in life. And it's really about orientation. And it's really about also seeing the long view, because sometimes in the moment it can seem like all these terrible things are happening. But then you zoom out and like over the course of months, you're like, oh, it was leading me here. And I had no idea. And I've just seen that happen so many times in my life that I'm like, I just trust.
Welcome to the Any Place podcast. I'm your host, Robin Nisbet. In this episode, I speak with Nico Nelson, photographer, creative doula, and someone who belongs deeply to the earth. We talk about what it means to be seen, the tenderness of wanting, trusting what feels true, and the small choices that quietly shape the larger arc of our lives. This is Small Song for a Deity. This is Nico Nelson, everybody. The fabulous Nico Nelson. I first met you through a friend because I needed some photography and I needed some images for my work. And it was at a time where I was ready to be seen more publicly, to put myself out there, to create a website. And for me, that was quite a healing experience because of my past experience with being photographed in different ways. And I think there's this potential healing arc for the people who are seeking you out, in particular as a photographer. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that feels for you, or how you were drawn to photography as one of your many modalities. I want to talk about the other art forms that you express yourself through as well.
Yeah. I find that like as soon as people have like a little bit of space to just be themselves, like so much comes out. And I think my orientation to photography to begin with was just really like, I just enjoy seeing things and seeing the beauty in it, and it's magical to me, And I think sometimes in order to see ourselves, we have to have the mirror to see sometimes how other people see you in order to actually like kind of wipe the looking glass clean of like how you see yourself. With camera work for me, like that's what it is. It's just, it touches that deep longing within each of us to have not just our beauty seen, but our pain also, like the things that we've been through, the struggles we've had, the work we've had to do, like the things we've overcome. Like we want those things to be seen because it means I've done something, I've accomplished something in my life because I've lived, purely because I've lived and I'm here, against all odds.
I've dabbled with photography and it's one of the mediums that I like to work with. And I personally sometimes struggle with how do I engage with this modality where I see something and it feels like a responsible way to engage, or it feels like it's taking into consideration other people's relationship with being seen. And so I think that's why I'm asking this question.
As someone who travels and has taken a lot of photos while traveling, I don't really take photos of people without their permission. But that's just me. I'm not saying that that's like inherently wrong, because I think a lot of times when people do that, it's because they really feel the person's beautiful. So I think there's inherently like a reverence that exists within that for most photographers. But just for me personally, I feel like in the age that we're in, like image sovereignty, if you will, like is so important to me. And so the depth to which I want to see someone can only kind of happen in this like very consensual container. When I work with people over time too, it's been really powerful because there's just like more and more layers that get kind of stripped away and we can go deeper, and there's more comfort and there's more like exchange that can happen with the camera.
Yeah. And as I've been getting to see some of the work that you've been putting up on Instagram and more of your performance artwork, I'm curious about your relationship with being seen. It seems like that's been a theme in some of the work that you've been showing, is like, this is me, and it feels very vulnerable and raw, and there's a real honesty in it that it's very refreshing to see. And you just posted the dress. Is that what we can call it?
Yeah, the dress.
The dress. Will you talk about that?
Yeah. People told me that I should do self-portraits, and I was like, no, like, why? Like, I'm not interesting. Like, you're interesting. Like, I'm more interested in seeing other people than myself. And also, like, seeing beautiful things in other people would inspire me to kind of want to incorporate those aspects within myself. That's always how I've like learned and had growth, is like, I am inspired by people and the way that they're actually showing up in my life and the things that they're bringing into my world. And I'm like, I want to do that. And yeah, at the time I just didn't have anyone to photograph because I wasn't getting booked. And then I was like, well, I have me, I'm always here, and then I thought like it might be kind of interesting to start documenting what I look like now, because I realized like I'm just getting older, and looking back on some photos I've had from my 20s, I'm like, it's so fascinating actually to watch me age and to see me at that time, to see in my face where I was at, like. And anyway, I just was like, I'll just start photographing myself, and I think it was an interesting thing of like doing that, feeling how good it felt to give myself the thing that I'd been giving other people. Like, I was like, oh shit, like this actually is really healing. And I've realized more and more like this very cathartic power of like, the more that I let people see me, the more I actually receive the thing that I like have been yearning for my entire life. And the process of doing it, it's just as much of a payout as like actually putting it out anywhere. You know what I mean? But then it's like I get like this double hit of it, like underneath it all, it's just this deep like need from my heart to be seen and understood. And I think a lot of times like I feel deeply misunderstood in the world, like as kind of like someone who always sits on the like sort of edges and outskirts of different communities and groups. Like, I'm not someone who's in the middle of like any kind of group or community. And I think a lot of times it's that like outsider perspective that is helpful. It's like a service to some extent, but it also keeps me in this place sometimes of like, well, nobody really understands me either. And I think that doing this like kind of next iteration of what I've been making recently, particularly with this piece, the dress, it was just a funny idea. I was like, I should just like, I have this dress, I have all this stuff around it. I really need to just get rid of it because I'm just carrying it around. But like, I've literally tried to sell it and no one wants to buy it. I've tried to give it away once and the person was like, well, I just have nowhere to wear this. And I'm like, no, it's so impractical. Like, it's such a strange thing to have.
But it's a fabulous dress.
It's a fabulous, but I have nowhere to wear it.
Yeah,
it had these like puff sleeves. The collar was sort of like, it was very like covered, the whole thing. It's black. It has this sort of like, mermaid tail bottom that's like ruched fabric that hugs all my legs, and
it has kind of almost a little bit of a Morticia look.
Yes.
Like it's sexy and like also austere.
Yes, at the same time, which is like, I guess it's a little bit of my vibe. And I just was like, maybe I should just cut myself out of it with like scissors. Or I was like, oh no, I have this like dagger that I have for like some other thing I did. And I was like, I should just like cut myself out of it with a dagger, like, and film it. And I didn't have any like meaning behind it though at first. And I'm realizing this is how my process is. Like, I'll just get like an image of something and I'll just be like, that's kind of cool. And then I realize later, like there's just dripping with meaning, but I don't have access to that right away. I just kind of have to go with the like, this is interesting, that idea then evolved into realizing I was like going to be showing my stomach. And like, I've been in a place where I felt very vulnerable about my stomach. It's just not something that I always wear like high-waisted pants and shit, like, because, with my body type, it's like, oh, accentuate your waist, whatever. Like I do that whole thing. And I realized like, it's also not even about body image. It's about like this part of me that's like soft and it's, like it's tender, and like I'm never someone that's had a flat stomach. That's not something that's ever been of access to me. Just my body type is just not that way. And I realize I'm like, oh, it's like when we show this part of ourselves, we're doing something that like in nature is like death, to show your stomach, like as an animal, means you're submitting. So it's like, it's very vulnerable. And like, you would only do it if you really felt safe. And it just occurred to me, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm in this period of my life where like metaphorically, I'm like showing my belly to the world to some extent. And it's because I finally feel a certain level of safety within myself that I didn't have. So it's like, it didn't occur to me until I was in the process of it. I was like, oh shit, this is kind of radical for me. Underneath all of that, it's like also like all the things that I'm insecure about, like whatever it is, like I'm weird, I'm loud, I'm inappropriate at times, like I don't read the room, I can be insensitive, like, whatever, all these things that I feel are like too much or not enough, too much and not enough are like a continuum or like two sides of the same coin, I think. Feeling all of that while I'm like cutting myself out of this dress, and then also just like going through these old songs that I really love, and like one of them being Creep by Radiohead, and just realizing like, oh my God, like, I mean, I've loved this song forever. I've felt the nuances of it, but it like hit me in that moment. I'm like, this is a song about someone who feels like their love, their obsession with this person is like creepy, and it's too much, and it's weird, and it's like, they had to make this whole song about it. And I was like, that's how I feel. I feel like actually the person that I want to be, the intensity and the passion and the like weirdness that exists within me, the things that are considered quote unquote negative, that are very powerful and are very moving and like shake us out of a surface kind of experience, and they're the things that we want to hide or push away. And they're the things that are the most desperate to break free. And that once they're out there, they don't really feel negative. It actually feels very uplifting. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like when you experience someone like, they're like, well, I don't want to be a bummer or a burden. And then they break into tears, sharing like all these difficult things they've been through. It's like, my experience is not like, wow, that's really a big burden. Like, thanks for putting that burden on me. It's like, I'm moved, suddenly like there's some barrier between me and them that's broken. And I actually feel more love inside of me, like it's this like, yeah, it's like I feel more love inside of me. Like they've given me more love by them just sharing something that they've been going through.
I think in the 12-step program, there's one of the sayings is you're only as sick as your secrets. So like this thing around shame, and we live in a culture of shame. And I hate it when I experience jealousy. It's one of the ugliest experiences I can have. And what has helped me with jealousy is just to be able to say it.
Yeah.
It's just to be like, I'm jealous of that. And I feel insecure, whether it's jealousy because you want somebody's attention and affection, or if it's just envy because you want what the other person has. But what helps is just to say it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the beauty of art, right? Is it's like, it's just something that we really want, like underneath it. The things that we are here to work on and live into and experience in our lives are our own, each of us.
Yes.
The power of honesty is freedom. And I think when you said earlier that you feel like the things that I share are really honest, I think it's because I have a deep desire for freedom. It's like, I just want to give away all my secrets because then I'll be free, I'll be light. I'm not holding on anymore, Now, other people's secrets, it's a different story because people tell me their secrets all the time and I don't share those, but it doesn't feel heavy to hold those. Yeah. It's like if the secrets that we're talking about are like really their shame. It's like the things that we cover up with shame. It's not that they are shame. It's like we're covering them up with shame, because I think shame is actually like this protective. It's weird because it hurts so much and it's so uncomfortable, but it's also this like protection, I think, that we put on just the thing that we're afraid to share.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good reframe around shame, because this actually serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And maybe it's helping me survive through something, or is propelling me into like a better behavior, because this behavior that I'm doing is not okay. Like, whatever the situation is.
Yeah. It's interesting to just consider that everything has a purpose in that way. And then when you feel your jealousy or envy, then you don't just think you're a bad person, but you investigate what the purpose of that is. It's like all of this, I think, comes down to trust, you know? And I think you defined trust the other day, and I'd never heard this definition. I thought it was so powerful. Well, you said believing, but I reframe it, like, I think it's knowing the truth.
Right. I was saying that trust comes from the word truth.
Right.
Word.
And I remember there was a point where a reflection that I got was like, oh, like you have trouble trusting other people. And like, I remember that was something I used to really struggle with. And it seems almost funny and comical now, because it's like literally like the thing that I feel like I kind of do best. Like I was at that concert the other night with my friend, and we were just talking about like, just getting there and just kind of reflecting on how we got there and the kind of little challenges that we met and how we like overcame them and how fun and funny it was. And, I said something like, yeah, I would have just shown up and figured it out or something. And my friend was like, you're like 10 times more surrendered than I am. Like she just said that. And like, not that it doesn't need to be a comparison. And like, I'm sure there's ways that she's more surrendered than I am. It just maybe depends on the context. I don't know. But like, it was just a funny moment of being like, oh yeah, like this is like a skill that I've developed, is this trust, in not only in myself essentially, but like in the goodness also of life. You know what I mean? Like the general benevolence of life. And it used to be, because of my traumas from a child, like in what I was taught growing up was that like life is literally here to just destroy you and break you down and like hurt you, and there's nothing good out there, like that's literally what I was like brainwashed to believe. And so I held that in my body until I started, like I left my house and started living my own life and started meeting people and started having experiences outside of my mother's home, and realizing like, actually, like all the pain and suffering was in that house. Like out here, it's great. Not to say there's not people that might hurt you, of course. Like, people are always going to hurt you, actually. Like, it's like, almost especially when they're not trying to, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen. You'll be hurt. You'll be disappointed. Some bad things will happen. You know what I mean? That's life. But like, I guess it's like the underlying like thing, the message that I've just continued to get over and over and over is that there's just goodness, like in the world and in life. And it's really about orientation, and it's really about also seeing the long view, because sometimes in the moment it can seem like all these terrible things are happening, but then you zoom out and like over the course of months, you're like, oh, it was leading me here and I had no idea. And I've just seen that happen so many times in my life that I'm like, I just trust. Like at this point, it's like that's all I can do. And the quicker I can get to trust, the less suffering I have along the way. Yeah. Like I can go kicking and screaming into the same outcome, or I can just like float on the river in my little inner tube, and let it carry me there, Yeah. That's what trust is to me. It's like, it's instead of struggling against the current that's, you're going to go there. There's no fighting it. It's just going to happen. Yeah. It's like trust is just that decision to like lay back and like just float.
I also think about, in a similar vein, how sort of writing the vicissitudes of life, is it about, there's always going to be challenges that come up. The challenges are never going to go away. How do I want to move with those challenges? Do I want every single time a challenge comes up to be like, oh no, this is terrible. What do I do? And to hyper-focus or get really myopic around it? Or do I want to zoom out and practice my own way of moving with something in a state of grace? That's probably a more interesting way to be, is to have this perspective that is not so wedded to the actual thing that's happening, but more interested in cultivating a space inside of myself that can move with the thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about making space for surprise and delight, essentially. And I think what you're saying is like, when you're so attached to a certain outcome, it's like, first of all, you think you know what's best for you when there's like literally a cosmic intelligence that knows better. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's just true. Like there's something going on that's bigger than you. I mean, whether or not you can put the label God on it, like, you cannot deny that there's something going on.
Yeah. Listeners, spoken by an Aquarius sun, Aries moon, and Aries rising. She speaks the truth.
There's something going on, you know what I mean? And I think it's like we get so hyper fixated on it has to look this way that we're literally closing ourselves off to being like surprised and delighted. Now, here's the thing. Like, I study human design, and so I also know that like people are different. Like, the way that your blessings come to you is very unique to your system. And the way mine comes to me is also unique to mine. So I can never speak a strategy for life that's going to work for every single person. That just that's not the thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's the beauty, I think, of this journey. And it's a little bit why I've kind of like so deeply distanced myself from the world of coaching, because I'm like, you cannot teach somebody else how to just live their own life. Like, that's something each of us has to feel and figure out. It's a deep journey, and it's a worthwhile one. And I think a lot of people want to skip over it because they want that, like, well, if I hire a coach, then I can do this 10 times faster. And it's like, well, maybe you're not supposed to do it 10 times faster.
Right.
It's almost like, you know, that old quote, like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I feel like that's really true. It's like, anytime in my life I've ever had a mentor come into my life, it's been that kind of natural moment where I'm like, I meet somebody and it's like, oh, I'm learning from them, you know, and it's very clear that that's what's happening, and it's natural. And yet at the same time, I'm not learning from them how to live my life. I'm learning from them like certain skills or ways of being that I know are helpful for me or like resonate with me. You know what I mean? Like, they're embodying some level of mastery of certain things that I'm not there yet. And so I get to like learn from them, you know? But again, it's like, it doesn't come from this place of like, I'm trying to skip over experiencing life, or like I'm trying to rush to get to some point so I can make a 6-figure, you know, income from my business or something like that. It's like, no, like, this is the natural thing that happens when you're growing. And so that's like, to me, that's trust too. It's also knowing like, I have what I can handle right now, and I'll have more when I can handle more. And that's the part I think about leadership that I feel is deeply missing in the world. It's like, people just kind of skip ahead all of that, and then they have all this money, and then, but they're horrible. Like, and in this world, in this material world we live in, it's like, my friend calls it material enlightenment. It's like, when you have a lot of money, suddenly people think that you are a good leader, but that doesn't make you a good leader. It just makes you really good at making money or having, you know, attracting material resources. And I think that what the world needs right now, you know, is really people who like, sure, you can have a lot of money, but like, can you hold the responsibility of that? Have you done all the work to get to that point where like, you are now a really good steward of that money in a way that's not just serving yourself and your selfish ambition,
right?
You know what I mean? But that's actually connected to reality of like, you are an interdependent piece of a fucking web of life. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, it reminds me of like the psychedelic conversation, you know what I mean? Or like plant medicine conversation where people, they're like taking all of these, you know, they're ingesting all these plant medicines, which is like, no, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, you know, and they're really helpful and can be really helpful. But a lot of times they're not doing other work along with it to where they can hold that experience. And I know from my own experience, I experimented with a lot of like mushrooms and acid and stuff when I was really young. And like, I would get taken to a place, but I didn't know how to get there or how to get home, or, you know what I mean? Or like integrate it or hold it, you know what I mean? It was just like an experience. And then I just kept taking it so that I could go back there.
Yeah.
But I'm not, and maybe over time, sure, I'm building some neural pathways because of the repetition of that.
Right.
But it's such a big experience to have without tools and like a foundation and capacity inside oneself to hold it. And I think that's like just true of our lives as well. It's like whatever we're wanting, like that experience that we're wanting, you know, I think there's something powerful about going through, you know, the journey to get there makes it that much more sweet when you have it. You know what I mean? You can actually appreciate it and do something mature and wise with it versus just like be like, wow, that's fucking cool, you know? Like,
yeah. And speaking about plant medicine or having these big revelations or experiences and insights, for me, I've been very interested in what are the small practices, and that's why I like asking people what are they practicing, or you know, what is their micro practice? It might be something so small. It might be like a minute that we take every day, but it's doing something, and it might take a really long time to see change, but there's nothing wrong with taking our time in talking about integration of information.
Yeah.
There's something to the middle path. One of my favorite aphorisms is chopping wood, carrying water. It's something that I heard, I think, in my early teens, and it hit me in a way. It's like my body recognized that as someone who likes to, I get big ideas and I'm very dramatic, like make something happen right now. It's somehow my body knew on this wiser, deeper level that it actually, the things that have a longer durational span or that I'm doing on the regular that might not be so dramatic might have a deeper impact on me and my life.
Yeah. I think for me, it's showing up every day to my practices, you know, which right now it's like, if I'm going to put like the, you know, more of a frame around it, it's my like seated meditation, which includes like mantra and also a song of praise I do to a particular deity, and then writing like my morning pages because I'm working through the artist's way. So part of that is also just showing up to that even when I feel like I'm like, I don't know, or like, you know, and then just sitting there. There's kind of a lot of room for me to also just show up with whatever I'm feeling. And I think that helps me to do it every day because, again, it's like, it's not the discipline from the punishment perspective, but it's the discipline from the like taking care of myself perspective, you know, of like, this is structure that's actually supportive versus like oppressive. And that I need that distinction in my life because of, like I said, my childhood conditioning. And then the second thing is in the artist's way, I just read this yesterday and this week. She was like, success, like we think success comes in like just these like big leaps all the time. And really it's a series of like small choices that leads us there. You can't sustain big leaps all the time. You do those, you know, there's moments for those, but like your nervous system literally can't handle that all the time. You know what I mean? And it's the small things that we do that make up our entire lives. I mean, I really believe that life is just made up of all the small choices that we make every single day. That's what makes up your life. It's like, you know, pretty soon you make these little small choices. You're like, okay, I'll just eat like, you know, a bunch of sugar today and then I won't do it tomorrow. And then you're like, well, it's just 2 days. Well, it's just 3 days, you know, and then pretty soon, like in a week, you're like, oh shit, I feel like crap, you know, like, and it's just the choice to do that every single day added up to that, you know, and I'm saying sugar because it's one of my things that I use to self-sabotage my addiction to sugar and sweet things. But so anyway, like the story that she told in the artist's way that it made me cry. Like I literally like like that type of cry, like, and I didn't expect it at all, but it just hit me in a certain way, where she was talking about this person, he was his pronoun, he like was a drummer and then he stopped drumming because he, you know, kind of lost confidence in himself or whatever. And to the point where he couldn't even like listen to some of his favorite music because it would like trigger this feeling of loss of this thing in his life. And then through kind of working through the artist's way, he started to just listen. Like he's like, one of the things he did for himself was just to buy like some vinyl, like some records of like the songs that he really loved to like listen to and like have this experience of like listening to these things again. So he did that. And then over time, like, I don't know if like a few weeks or even months passed where he was just doing that and giving himself the gift of like buying himself these little treats, which were these like records. He then bought himself a pair of drumsticks. And then those sat for like a few months. Like he didn't do anything with them. Like he didn't even look at them, you know? And then he would kind of like hold them in his hand. And then he would start like, you know, kind of drumming on like things. Like one day he found himself sort of like just drumming on like the handlebars of his bike or something like that. And then he was like, I should get a drum set. Like, and then he like bought himself the drum set and that sat for a while. And then one day he picked up his sticks and he started to play the drums. And then soon he was practicing every day. And then soon after that, he was like, man, I'm pretty good actually. You know, like it was this long process, you know, but it went from buying himself some records to like actually playing his drums every day. You know, those little choices that added up to like something pretty miraculous, you know, this like reclamation of this part of himself, which like made me cry because I think about how often it feels like so daunting and overwhelming to like do the thing or like have the thing that we want, you know, and it feels like we have to like do this big thing, like that feels so scary and painful to like get there. And it's like such a big story I think we make around it. The truth is like, it's just a small decision and that'll lead us to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that life isn't this like cruel thing that's like wanting to punish us and like make things so hard for us. Like that's such a like, it's a very like, I think colonial, capitalist, like idea, you know, it's like before all of this existed in this country, there were just people living here who were like living off the land. You know what I mean? Like they were just living and they were living in like literal paradise. Like Native people saw this place as paradise. I just started reading Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee last night, which of course like is fucking me up so much. But all I remember is reading last night something to the tune of that, like that this was paradise and they couldn't understand why white people wanted to destroy it. Yeah. Like, and they were, you know, they were cutting down all the trees and they were just destroying the land, you know, and they were like, they were like, literally like, why? Like, and I think to some extent I look at that and it's like, why are you making things so hard for yourself? Like, it's like literally, this is paradise. And I think that like, to me, planet Earth can be that. And it is that to some extent, you know what I mean? It's like, we've made it into hell, but it doesn't need to be hell. We have everything that we need, but I don't know why we like destroy it.
In the story that you're talking about with the drummer, there's something that's so tender about that. I think it hits me in a deep place because I've been in a practice of kind of in this love affair with myself of like, what does Robin want right now? What feels good for Robin? I was sort of in this exhilarated place of like, I'm going to take myself on these dates and I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to have a beach day with myself. And then I sang to the ocean and I'm like remembering this kind of joy and it felt very private. Like it feels very private. And there's something about hearing this story with this drummer and his journey with the relationship with the drums that feels so tender. It's like getting to look in on somebody's life and their courting of something.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful.
It is. And it is tender. I think wanting anything is tender. It's very vulnerable to want things.
Yes. It is vulnerable because we might not get it.
Yes. And then it's like we judge what we want also because we think we should or shouldn't or whatever. Like, and then it's weird how like, instead of giving ourselves the thing that we actually want, we'll like spend time, money, and energy on giving ourselves something else that we don't want. Like, it's so funny how we do that because it's like just being with the fact that I want this thing is so tender.
Yeah. Will you describe a landscape that sits in your heart?
It's these very tall cliffs. And, on the land side, there's trees, like beautiful, tall redwoods and firs and, different types of trees. And then on the other side is this like vast blue ocean. And it's like standing in the middle of both of these things where you can see, like you can just let your eyes see as far as possible. It's like you feel like you're literally on the edge of the world, like you are at the edge of the world. Yeah. And like the way that the sun, like the afternoon sun hits everything, makes everything golden and glow. And then you have just this like lush, like green landscape also to one side that's filled with life, birds and creatures and all kinds of things. And just like the way that the waves like smash into the rocks, and it feels so wild and yet so comfortable at the same time.
This is so interesting, your description of this landscape, because I'm reminded of the ways that I've heard you not only describe the way you're living your life right now, but also kind of like your purpose and your role and your ability to perceive, as an Aquarius sun, your ability to kind of zoom out and see the larger picture, and also standing on this precipice because you're living as this traveler, and we can talk about different words for this, but as this traveler who has to find home wherever they go, because we need home, we need a sense of home, but is also maybe sometimes, you were describing earlier yourself as being someone who lives on the periphery or is an outsider. So it's like the ability to see both the inside of something and the outside of something at the same time. Standing on the precipice of two worlds. Yeah, we were talking about the word nomadic, and I have a tendency to not like words that I hear being used a lot. I'm like, no, I will not use that word. And of course, like, gypsy is pejorative because it was naming a particular group that misnaming them, basically thinking that they're from Egypt and so it's one of those which we like to do, like Aztecans, which really, like, it's Mexica people who speak Nahuatl, but like there's all of these words. So, and then there's also all of the stuff around what a gypsy is, which is negative. And so I think maybe Roma would be a more correct word, but that also has a particular ethnic relationship. But transient is another one. I like to call myself a vagabond sometimes.
Me too, actually.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of the phrase Dharma bum yesterday in that book, and like I really get that, and I think actually, as you're talking about the word gypsy, I love that word so much. And I love everything it stands for, even the negative parts, because I think that's the part where I feel like I recently was kind of feeling like, I don't want to be like a freeloader, was this phrase that I had in my head. And I was like, that's really interesting, because I don't own property or I'm not paying rent in a particular place means that I'm like extracting from that place. Whereas like, I'm not sure that paying a landlord makes you any less extractive from any place,
right?
Or like owning land on stolen land.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Thank you.
It's sort of like, I don't get why that's like the thing that makes you a legitimate human being. Like, you know what I mean? But it's so like deeply conditioned in me. But I think about like gypsies as like, to me, it's like someone who doesn't belong anywhere and yet belongs everywhere. And that's how I feel. And I think, as someone who's also, I'm mixed race also. So it's like, I grew up kind of being like, I don't know where the fuck I fit in. Like, I don't fit in anywhere. But also I fit in everywhere. Like I can fit in everywhere. Like I had that kind of chameleon nature to me where it's like, these people are way different from me, but I could like hang out and just kind of listen and find a common thread and then find a connection. And the reality is that most people are way different from me. So, it's like I had to do that, like, but yeah, I really resonate with just the heart of someone who belongs to the earth, and can't really just choose one place. And that's why I was like, when you're like, describe the landscape, I'm like, man, like, I'm thinking of the desert. I'm thinking of, Bali, or any tropical island, which I really resonate with people who live on tropical islands. Like, the cultures, it's like kind of a similar vibe, no matter, what the language is, or like, it's like, I feel like there's a vibe for people who live on an island, and I'm like, that really resonates with me. But then I also really like feel connected to the desert and like, the kind of like austere, like rugged, like vastness of the desert and desert light, that hits a very particular way for me. Like, but then I also grew up in California, and like California to me is a fucking paradise. Like it's literally like, it's a perfect place in my opinion. Like I'm not talking about culturally or like fiscally, but like the land, it's got everything, you know what I mean? And it's so beautiful to me.
And will you tell us where the landscape
was? It was Big Sur.
Big Sur, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it's gotta be Big Sur.
And as someone who grew up in California, you're like, Big Sur, it's like you go there and you're like, is this place real? Like, what am I looking at? Like, I can't even believe it exists almost. It's just too perfect to look at, And the feeling there is like, it's exquisite. Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's no wonder why there have been so many like artists and writers and stuff who've like holed up there to like, just, be an artist.
That was something that we talked about when you first were staying here, talking about this thing of you don't want to feel like a freeloader. And I'm experiencing a lot of stuff deep-seated stuff coming up around belonging and home. And your presence here has not only have our conversations and your sort of ability to hold space and listen and to say like the truth when you hear it. I mean, it's like you're a therapist, but also just like your physical presence, your energetic presence it is a blessing. And I think you can claim that.
Thank you for saying that. But it's also like I said, it's like my practice is devotion. So it's like I am always very much wondering and asking like, and kind of available for like what I can offer at all times, because that's a value of mine. And I know like I'm not the best at running a business or what I really need and want is like a manager, like an agent. I need someone out there who can like knock down the doors and you know what I mean? So it's like I need a body of work, and then I need an agent or someone who can like get me in the door different places and negotiate contracts and get me money to live on. Like that would...
Great. If anyone who's listening to this, we'll put Nico's website in the show notes so you can not only book her for a photography session, which is deeply a transformative and healing experience, but also you're going to get some bomb-ass photographs.
Thank you.
As someone who in Vedic astrology has Rahu being in the 11th house.
Oh yeah. Going back a little bit to this, like being a freeloader and like living the way that I do. And it's interesting because mostly everyone's like, wow, that's so cool. But I've had some people be like, so you just like, what? You just stay at people's houses? Like the way that they've asked me, there's been this like tone of a little bit like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that I've felt a little bit of like, it's touched on my insecurity around it, of like, oh, this is how I don't want to be perceived. But like, ultimately there's people that are perceiving me this way. Oh, well, but also like, ouch. And, what I loved about hearing about this Ketu Rahu thing. So, just to clarify, Ketu is the same as South Node. So it's like Ketu in Vedic astrology is synonymous with your South Node in tropical astrology. And then Rahu is North Node as well. And you can think, or the way that I think of it is your K2 or your South Node is sort of like what you kind of come here with comfort around. It's like your comfort zone.
Right. It's almost like lifetimes of information around this. Like, you know how to do this already.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it comes really natural to you, and because it does, it's easy to kind of stay stuck there. Yeah. Although life will never let you stay stuck. Fortunately and unfortunately, it will just continue to push you towards your growth in this lifetime. I mean, I really see that in my life. And so your Rahu it's sort of like what your particular journey here is about learning. And so it's you can call it your discomfort zone. It's like outside of your comfort zone. And so for me, my K2 is in Leo in the 5th house, and Leo rules the 5th house. So it's very, very Leo themed, Leo coded, if you will, to use the parlance of our times. And then Rahu, my North Node is in the 11th house in Aquarius. So it's ruled by Aquarius. 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. So it's just very Aquarian. And in Vedic, I'm actually a Capricorn sun. In tropical, I'm Aquarius sun. So it's like, in some ways, like this Aquarian theme it's just very strong. And Vedic is just different. And I think how the planets how you're kind of oriented the planets a little bit. Like, some things are the same, but I feel like Rahu is just very, very important in Vedic astrology because it's like your freaking soul's evolution. And so to me, the way that this has shown up in my life has been this realization, and he really confirmed this, that
Dr. J, y'all. Dr. J
Kaushal?
Yeah,
that's how you pronounce it.
I think so. That's how I've been pronouncing.
He's Indian.
It might not be for everyone, but I really enjoy it.
He's got a great YouTube channel. He's got some bangers on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Leo in the South Node is like, Leo is very much it's interesting because Leo is ruled by the sun. So it's very much about like recognition and being seen. And Leo is also, to some extent, I think Leo can be perceived as egoic or selfish. I don't feel that that's, I don't think that that's true, but I think it's sort of like the shadow side of it is like, it's all about me.
I'm a Leo moon, and it's all about me.
It's true to some extent, and it's also like there's so much more there. And I love Leo so much. I have very good Leo friends, you included. But it's like that sort of like the like immature Leo expression is like it's all about me. And so I think when you have your Leo in K2, it's like K2 is ultimately also like sort of it's a challenging place for us because it's like our comfort zone, but therefore it's also like, I think where we have a lot of unconsciousness, you know what I mean? We kind of just can't really see it. And I think what I've learned about my life is this sort of thing that I think that I need to have, like, that it's all about me, and I need recognition, and I need to be seen in all of this for like selfish reasons. And when I say selfish, I just mean like wounded reasons, like because I don't feel good enough, or like I'm trying to like fill like this self-hatred with like acknowledgement or like fame or something, and that what Dr. J said, which I just loved, was that like it's actually natural for me to be seen in this lifetime. Like it's already going to be the case, but the way that is going to happen in a good way is if I'm focused on the collective, if I'm more focused on like Aquarius ideals, which in some ways, like, Aquarius and Leo are opposites in the zodiac. They're literally at the opposite, they're directly opposite each other. So
and which your North Node and South Node are always opposite.
Right.
So it's almost,
exactly.
It's like this opposition, this polarization I think the way I read it is that this is our purpose is to integrate this opposition.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're like the bridge, basically, which is so beautiful, because then you take the stuff that you're like naturally really good at, that's in your comfort zone, and then you stretch it towards the thing that's difficult for you. In some ways, I spend a lot of time focused on other people, and then in other ways, I have navel gazed a lot of my life too. It's like, to me, it feels like it's being a channel. it's being a vessel. It's like being the one who can sort of stand for the thing that's for the best for everybody, and I'm not the only one. Anyone else can do that, but that just feels like my part. To the extent that I am seen and recognized and praised, it's because I'm sharing, showing, being something that is of value and of use to like collective well-being, and healing. And I think that's kind of what you're saying about what you experience of like the work that you've really loved of mine. And I'm realizing like, yeah, that's it. It's like when I can be that one that's like, hey, we're all terrified of this. Like, I'm going to make it into art. It's reaching and touching like into the hearts of many people versus like, oh, just see me because I'm like a really good singer or something. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. Right. And if you have Leo Rahu, that might be the case for you. It's just being seen and praised and like, respected for just being yourself. And you know what I mean? And it's just about you and your expression. Mm-hmm. And that's also going to be helpful in healing, but it's just like a different orientation, I think.
Right.
And it's like, it was so relieving to me to hear it almost, because I'm like, I literally could care less about myself. That sounds really weird, but it's true. It's like, I think I have to, I feel like this pressure to care about myself and to like be this star or something, I've always felt that but I really don't care. Right. You know what I mean? I don't care enough to have done the work to get famous for just like being, I don't know, like a personality.
One of my questions for you, I'm interested in, as someone who is a traveler, someone who is an artist, gypsy, how do you make home wherever you are?
I guess it's a combination of things, because I don't really go anywhere where I don't feel like a deep invitation to be there. You know what I mean? Like I actually rarely ask people if I can stay with them. Like maybe once in a while I will, but usually the person of their own volition invites me. And when I feel that, I immediately feel this like this sense of like belonging wherever I am, because they've invited me. It's like from their heart that they've been like, I would love to have you here. I feel like I can meet that. And so then when I'm there, I feel at home, because there's this sense of, belonging, I think. So kind of like on a zoomed out view, that's what's going on a lot of the times. And it's also that I feel like it's not just the person, but actually, again, it's like cosmic intelligence is putting us together for that moment. And so their desire, they're like thinking of me to invite me to stay, is also like, we're supposed to be together to like do some work together, whether that's very light and kind of, small and just fun or whatever, or like deeper and also fun. But the truth is that we're supposed to be together, and that's why I'm there. And I've entered into this lifestyle so that I can be free enough to listen to those calls whenever I need to, without being bound by like a rental agreement for some place. You know what I mean? Like, so I can just move around easier and be where I'm supposed to be.
It almost feels like when I was a teenager, I read The Alchemist and I was like, I'm gonna do this one day. And I've done like extensive traveling before where I've given up everything that I had and took off, but I had so much trouble listening to like, what is the moment, what is the call? And I felt very lost at times and kind of untethered to anything. But the way I see your life, it's like you maybe don't know what's going to happen more than a few months ahead of you. I don't know if this is true or not. You can clarify. But it's almost like things start to light up and something starts to show a pathway, and you just follow whatever that pathway is.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yes. It's like a feeling of like aliveness, because I lived in LA for 8 years. And at the beginning of that time, it was a big leap that I took to move there. And then somewhere along the way, it started to feel not right, but then I didn't really know what to do. And like, I feel like I came alive again. Like I was like dead at the end of my time in LA. I just felt like the difference between that time and then like getting rid of all my stuff and like living in this way is the difference between feeling like I was like dead to like being like resurrected, you know? Yeah. And then I would say like the other way that I create home is like I usually do my best to contribute to the home that I'm staying in. So like I'll help to clean or like, you know what I mean? It's like, that for me, it's like, I don't know, like it's a weird thing, but like sweeping is like a very like energetic practice for me. And I tend to like sweep wherever I go because
I love that.
it's like, it feels like I'm clearing the energy. And it's also like just something nobody ever wants to do, that and dishes. So it's like, usually I'll sweep or do dishes or something like, you know, I'll set I bring a little like altar with me now, like, and I set that up and I kind of have my little things that I'll, you know, so it's like energetically, it's an energetic thing. Like I'll basically like energetically clear the space that I'm in, whether it's the room I'm staying in or whatever. And, you know, of course I meditate in there and stuff. And usually people will tell me that it like feels good, like wherever I've stayed, you know? And so I think there's something that's happening for me. Like it's also like energetic. Like I think when a space is clean, I feel energetically like spacious, you know? It's like something in my brain feels good in my body. So yeah, it's like, I think there's something about that to me of like coming into a space and, you know, it's like, I saw something recently, someone was talking about sweeping, you know, it's like sweeping the temple or something. Like when you're a monk, it's like, you don't own the temple, you know, you just have a room there. You don't even rent it. You're just there by the grace of like, you know, because you bring your practice and your sincerity. And so you have a place to stay and you have food to eat. And it's weird. It's like, sometimes I think of myself as a monk and like, I was telling my friend the other day, I'm like, they were like, oh, what are you eating these days? I'm like, I'm back on the monk diet, which is basically, if you give it to me, I'll eat it. Yeah, there's something about living in that way that's been really healing for me because it's simultaneously, it's release of control because I can never control the environment that I'm about to go into. I have no idea. And that has caused me great stress in my life because of my cleanliness thing. It's also like this practice of like appreciation, receiving there, you know, and it's energetic for me. And that creates this sense of like, well, I'm not just a tourist. Like as I'm staying here, this is also my home. So I'll take care of it. Like it's my home, you know? And that helps me to feel at home. It's like while I'm there, I'm living there. So what would I do if this was my house? I would probably light some incense, say, you know, chant some mantras. I would sweep the floor. I'd wash the dishes. I'd wipe down the counters. You know, I'd tidy things up the best I can. I'm not always perfect at it, depending on my state or what's going on. But, you know, like I like make it a home while I'm there. And I think it's really the only way I'm able to do this because I actually am extremely particular about all of these things. And it's been funny, this practice of like, I have a lot of preferences and yet I'm in a state of like continual surrender. So it's like, it really at times has bumped up against my need for control of my environment, which is the one thing I think I have the most need for control over in my life. And it's the one thing that changes as frequently as it does.
Yeah, wow. One theme that I'm noticing in your work lately is it's around grief. Like we just did this little video out at the river bottom. And my question is, what are you grieving right now?
I think that every choice that we make in life has grief inherently laced in it. You choose one thing and then you let go of something else. And I feel emotional. It's like, it's constant, the grief. And I think that so often we avoid choosing because we want to avoid the pain of losing something. And to be alive right now is to be participant and witness in constant like death and change. It's like we can't avoid losing anything right now. We're just losing everything. Like we're losing species on the planet. We're losing clean air. We're losing whole like groups of people, clean water. We're losing like a whole generation of people also right now. So many people are dying from a particular generation of like artists and thinkers, and like, yeah, it's just, there's so much loss. And it feels like the only way to navigate this time is to create and like define our own relationship to grief. Like to be able to like just accept and be with loss. Yeah, and to know that it's just always going to be there, you know? And every period of human history has had great loss to it. It's not new either, you know? We've just always been changing, and there's always been something emerging and something else dying. And I think that's just the truth of life, is grief. And I mean, that sounds like a huge bummer, you know? It sounds like maybe negative or sad, but it's like, it's just the truth. And I think within that, it's like we can't forget that within the loss is also the emergence. You know, there's always something that's being born or being created as something else is going away, because nature pours a vacuum, you know? So it's like, truth is, we don't really lose anything, you know? Like things take different forms. So it's like, it's not really gone. It's gone in the form that we're used to and that we're comfortable with or that we want, you know? It changes into something else, and that's hard. I think the more that I open myself to grief, it's like grief just brings me into more intimacy with the truth, you know?
Ooh, can we just take a moment and let that is a statement. Grief just brings us more into intimacy with the truth. Wow. Old soul over here, y'all.
It's liberating. Feeling our grief. Every other culture in the world, even old European cultures, but like whatever the new kind of iteration of whatever we're in now.
Maybe like we could say like the pagan tribes of Europe.
Yeah.
Very comfortable with practices around grief.
Yes. Like so many other cultures on this planet have these practices, you know, and it might not even be like conscious, like, oh, we're doing a grief practice. It's not even like that. It's just like when grieving is happening, they're letting them, so I'm just getting chills. I'm like, people let themselves go there. Yeah. Like you were saying earlier, like, you know, when you just become this conduit for grief, and it's like, you don't stop it. You just let it move through you. It's really a relief, because everyone's feeling it in the room all the time. And when somebody finally like breaks down into tears and ugly cries, you know, quote unquote ugly cries, I think it's beautiful. Like, but like does that crying that's like, you know, you almost can't breathe because you're crying so hard, and there's just so much in you that wants to come out. It's like, it's such a relief for everybody else, because everybody else is feeling that all the time. It's just that we don't think it's appropriate, or we tamp it down inside of ourselves, you know, and also we think we have to have some concrete reason. Like, you know, I'm going through a divorce, or I lost a relative or something, you know, and of course those are big moments of grief, and yes, but it's like, sometimes it's just grief. It's just grief, and it's present because you're alive. And like I said, every choice you're making has some loss in it, you know, of like another version of yourself that you're saying goodbye to. Yeah. And it just feels like if we're not openly expressing and talking about grief right now, like we're not going to be able to get through this, this quote unquote life thing that we're doing, you know, like, I mean, you can also just sort of like dissociate, which is another option. I did that for a while. Yeah. It was effective for a while.
Yeah. My last question I ask everyone, what is your prayer?
I think I'm just in investigation of this because it's like ultimately I deeply trust that like whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. So, and I also believe in the power of prayer, you know what I mean? But I also have this feeling that I literally cannot control anybody else's destiny or karma, and I really don't know what's best for them. So it's rare for me to pray for other people because I'm just like, I don't know what's good for them.
I'm so glad that you bring this up because this is something that I have struggled with in my own practice around prayer. I've heard people say, well, it's easy, like everyone knows how to pray. And I'm like, I actually don't think I know how to pray. I know how to like be outside and touch my head on a giant rock and jump into the ocean or jump into the water and do something that feels dramatic and like feel it with a lot of emotion and like love for the people that I love and beyond, for the world and I know that, and like that feels like my prayer, but I have difficulty articulating it into words. But at the same time, I feel like words are so potent, thoughts are so potent.
Yeah. I think it's like prayer is inspired for me. Like sometimes like a deep prayer will come through, and other times I can't force myself to do it. I'm just saying words if my heart doesn't feel it. But I will say this, I feel that where I'm at right now, at least in my life, is like all I can do is pray for myself. And when I say that, I mean pray for myself in the sense that I'm responsible for myself and what I bring to the world. And I actually don't know what's best for the world, actually. Like me as an individual, I don't know what's best for the collective. I have my ideas of what I want and what I would like to see. But the thing is, there are so many different types of people on this planet. And what I want is not necessarily what someone else wants. What's heaven for me could be hell for somebody else. And I deeply respect like the sovereignty and the difference of every individual human being. And I understand that's also very difficult to live together in that way. You know what I mean? But I am here in inquiry and in interest to be like, how can we all live together in our differences? Because there's people out there that are living in a way that I'm like, wow, that's like literally insane to me. Like, I don't agree with that. And yet they have just as much right to live the way that they do that I do, even though I think it's wrong, you know, because like, who am I? Like, I mean, yes, I'm a vessel for God, but so are they, you know what I mean? Like, and yes, some people are more disconnected from that connection, right? And then they're doing things that are really harmful. And I still get to stand up and be like, no, I don't agree with that personally. And I'm going to do what I can to like protect people from that, you know, like if they want to be protected, you know what I mean? Like, but it's just tricky because I believe so deeply in freedom and free will. And then I also have values, you know, and I have a vision for the world. And so I think at the end of the day, my prayer is always that I am a vessel for divine love. And that might sound super trite, but that's how I feel. I feel like I want to be as much of a vessel, a conduit, a channel for divine love, and that wherever I go and whatever I do, I bring that love with me. I leave a place with more love than I found it. And that to me is the only thing that makes any sense, is just to be love and to give love, to be able to receive love and to leave love as my legacy. And I hope that that can be of some help to the world that we're living in. And I also deeply trust that there's a cosmic divine plan for everything that we're going through right now. And that actually, I don't even know what good is possible for the planet. Like what solution, you know, what way of being that doesn't even exist yet, you know, that's possible for people so that we can actually have heaven on earth, whatever that means.
Well, Nico, you have certainly brought so much love into my home, and I feel so grateful that you have been here sharing space with me. And thank you so much for having this conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me. I'm a projector. I love to be invited to share what I'm thinking about and seeing. So thank you. It means a lot. And I also just deeply appreciate your playful, inquisitive, like, very like open-minded beingness, because it's so helpful to be able to have conversations where we can just explore, where it's not about trying to be right, you know what I mean? And just this like volley back and forth of like opinions, but rather like an exploration where we can actually uncover like a deeper truth that maybe we didn't even know existed before, like, and having like people like you in my life that I can do that with is so helpful. And I think in a way that's the prayer, is like, or that's like the embodied prayer is like when we come together, we're actually more, we're more love, we're more wisdom, we're more mental intelligence, we're more capacity, like versus, this competition, which has been a theme of our conversations. I know that that's a thing that can happen, especially when you have people who are very like unique, strong individuals, which I think we both are. We have a very particular way that we're seeing things. And yet I think there's a desire relationally to explore and to play. And I think that helps with the fun of like, what else, what else besides just like my way of seeing things.
Thank you for listening today. You can find out more about Nico's work on her website, NicoNelson.com. For more information about the podcast, go to anyplacepodcast.com. This episode was recorded on the traditional homelands of the Chumash people.